Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Dr. Joy, and I am super excited to have you all here for the Hope and Her podcast, where we talk about what we talk about, right? And so for the next 40 days, oh, no, I'm making it up. I am making it up. For the next 6 days, you will be on this first fruits to 40 journey with me where we have been live, you guys, every morning at the 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time hour. Now, there's been a couple mornings. It's been 6:05. It's been 6:07. Today is 6:08. I'm working on it because I am in a different time zone. And trying to make sure that I am navigating both time zones. And so, but we are here, and we are here in the hour that we said we would be here in the hour. I believe the Lord is pleased. And we are excited to do what God has told us to do, right? Uh, and so, um, yeah. So this morning is Sunday morning. It's our Sunday mornings. And so we have someone here with us who's been with us every Sunday in this process, I believe. And our whole goal is to bring you love and hope. Listen, you can't do better than that. And so, this good Sunday morning with the doctors, let me go ahead and bring out our Dr. Katherine E. James. And the crowd goes wild.
Morning,
Hey, good morning.
morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, so a lot has happened. A lot has happened. Like
Mhm,
lots of things have happened since the last time we have been together. Um,
mhm,
so, oh, y'all, we don't even know what exactly we gonna talk about today. But the
mhm.
first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna have Dr. James tell her joy story. I like to hear a good joy story as we're headed towards my birth. So the time of my birth. So uh, if I had to ask you a joy story that comes to mind, because for the people who come on for the first time, I always ask them how do we know each other and da 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 whatever. So I've been asking who have been regular guests to tell a joy story, just because it's coming up to my birthday, and I think it's apropos. Uh, so, um, tell a joy. What joy story comes to mind this morning as I spring this on you?
Okay. So, for whatever reason, all the adventurous stories come to mind. So
Mhm.
I'm reminded when you decided that you was gonna drive alone to Dallas.
Hey Dallas, I'm here right now. Hey y'all, hey.
Gonna drive alone to Dallas, and I get a phone call like, should I get brand new tires or should I just get replacement tire? What do you mean? Well, as I was all alone on the road in the middle of the night, my something happened to a tire, and now I need a replacement. Girl, get new tires, all new tires.
Replace all the tires. Every tire there is, not just the one. Let me give people some context. I have done some things. Listen, let me tell y'all, the Lord has been with me in these 40 years. When I think back over my life, it's so funny. That's hilarious. Okay, so let me give people a little bit of context. So I was going to Dallas to serve a friend of mine, one of her events, and life was a bit different and couldn't afford flights as much as well, and all those kinds of things. I said, but I got a car, so I can drive, and I didn't mind driving, and I didn't know how long I was going to be. If you drive, of course, you can say, I don't know how long I'm gonna be gone. Y'all know I like to move around and all that kind of stuff. And so I got this bright idea to drive. I'm like, well, I'll just drive. I have a car. Let's I like to drive. And I drove to Dallas to support these couple of events that we had up. And I was like, because there's no point in me coming back because the events are so close together. Dot, dot, dot. Um, and I like to drive in the middle of the night because first of all, there's less people on the road. Um, and that's the primary reason I like to drive with them in the middle of the night. 'Cause there's less people on the road. Therefore, it's an easier drive. There's a less stressful drive. Um, you can drive a little faster because there's no people on the road. You make better time. Um, and yeah, so I am the type who will sleep until I wake up and at 11 o'clock at night, start a trip at
Mhm.
10, 11 o'clock at night. So I can have all the nighttime hours. Okay. Like I want all the nighttime hours. And so my tire blew out and I remember having that blowout. I was on the side of the road and I wasn't necessarily scared, actually. But I was frustrated because like I gotta spend some money. And for me, that was a big deal. Like, I don't want to spend no money. Da, 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 this, that, and the third. And then so they had the option of well, they didn't have the option of anything because the tire place only sold new tires, but because I was in, like, I don't know, call it Indianapolis, I have no idea where I was, but wherever I was they had it was right next to a used tire shop, and I was like, oh, I can get a used tire for a fraction of the cost. Yeah, Kathy was like, ma'am, absolutely not.
No, because you got to drive while you're there, and then you got to drive back home.
At
Mm.
some point, you got to come back home, okay? Listen, y'all get the new tires, okay? Get what is happening here? Get well, that was gonna distract me. Get the new tire. And it's funny that that's the story you chose. How many times in life? How many times in life do we choose options that are not? Now, here's the thing: if we are in a situation where all we got is enough for a used tire, by all means, get the
Yeah.
used tire, right? Like I want to be clear about that, right? But sometimes we're in a situation where resources are different, and we can say, okay, like let's make the better choice. Like, what's the better choice? Uh,
Mhm.
and so for me, like I struggle through that space because I'm like, do I need a new tire? And sometimes I have to have help. I would have to have help making better decisions. And what I mean by that is, because why was that a question, right? I'm in a different mindset now. Like this, also let's give context. That was like in 2021, so it was a few years ago. Not actually, that's not that long ago. When I think about it, I was
Mhm.
well old enough to be like, get a new tire, girl. Uh, but I looked at money differently, and again, my financial situation was different, right? And so I'm looking at the dollar amount and not what it could cost me later. Have you ever been in a situation where you looked at what it was going to cost you now versus what it was going to cost you later? And so as we talk about first fruits today, I mean, that's a good place to go, right? What it costs you now versus what it will cost you later.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Dr. James. What do we do when we're in situations where um, the now cost seems less, but the long term ramifications could be, I mean, just how the word that came to mind that I hesitated on saying, but because it
Mhm.
seemed really strong, but it could be right. The long term ramifications could be deadly,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. So you mean
So
like almost like taking the, and we could play with some words here, but you
yeah,
like taking the cheaper route or taking the easier route or taking the, kind of
hmm
in that way, like not. So so at the beginning we're building foundation often. And so if we skimp on foundation, everything we build from there is shaky.
Ooh, she said if we skimp on foundation,
Mhm.
everything we build from there is shaky. How many of you have ever built a shaky foundation?
Mhm.
Yeesh. Ooh, before we get too far into this talk, because I can already see where this is going this morning. Let me say hi to my people. Hey, y'all. Hey, hey, everybody out there. If you're there, say hey to me because I know y'all already know what I say. Yo, hi matters and it matters to me. Um, and I just want to be able to engage you, love on you this morning, and all of those things. If you're catching the replay, put hashtag replay so that we can know that you're on the replay and we can engage with you later, all those things. And those of you that are silent members who will never say anything, good morning to you too. I pray that you get what it is that God wants for you. To everybody who I listen to on silent, including you, Dr. James, sometimes in the morning, most mornings actually. And don't say hey to because it'd be too early and I'd be too tired. My bad, y'all, because I understand how important engagement is. Also, and I also know that sometimes you won't say anything, but you get so much out of it. And so I pray that you get what it is that God has for you. If you choose to not speak ever, right? It's okay. Stay around, hang around, get what you can get what you need, get what God has for you today. Uh, so good morning, good morning, good morning. Um, all right, Dr. James. All right, all right. Let's talk about that. Foundations. Like if you don't put what you need to put into the foundation, you start off
Mhm,
shaky.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And that starting off shaky, playing with my light, and that starting off shaky is, I mean, you have to keep paying for that, right? Time after time
Mm.
after time. A patch job here, a repair here, a suffering for what you didn't learn. If you would just put the extra hours in on the front end, now you could just be building upon that learning as opposed to still keep tripping over what you don't know and would have benefited for you to know. Like it's so many elements, so many layers to it that just it just behooves us to go on and do it up front, even though it doesn't feel like it, we don't want to. It's not how we want to spend our time, you know. And as a professor, I really believe in that. Learn
Okay.
the lesson at the rudimentary level while we're learning then. Because if you've ever been a person who was in a math class and you didn't get those rudimentary, you know, math skills, then you're suffering for the rest of your life trying to figure out how to do division.
Mm, mm. You talking a good talk. You talking a good talk, good talk. Listen, how many of you know that you cannot you can't skip the lesson? You can't
Mhm,
skip the lesson. You may think that you can skip the lesson, but when
mhm,
you skip a lesson and you have not gotten what you needed out
mhm,
of that space, what happens, what winds up happening is that we wind up in a space where we paying for it later. It makes it much more difficult. We don't actually have the tools that we need. Oh my gosh, so many things. And it's funny that you use it's really funny that you use math as an example there, right? Like if you don't have the base steps, you can't do the next thing. One of the things, and it's funny because one of the things that I'm really a huge proponent on for people is being able to read, being able
mhm,
to read and being able to read young. Um, because like whether you can do, I mean, so math is a thing, but whether you can do math or not, if you can't read, you about to fail some things, right? Like you about to,
mhm.
you can't do science, you can't do
Yeah.
math if you can't read, you can't do whatever. And so
Mhm,
and for me, reading is really a foundation for life. Uh, she said, repeat. She said, repeat. The reading thing is the reading. Is that what you want to repeat? The last for good morning. The last for good morning. If you can't do that, like if you don't have that foundation, like that stops so much. And so I think the same thing in life is if you don't have a foundation, if you don't have something to ground you in, if you don't have something to bring you back to the
mhm,
next thing, right? You know what I'm saying? It makes it so much harder. Good morning to everybody that's popping in. We're talking about foundation things. We're talking about uh, Dr. James told her good joy story this morning, where apparently she was afraid when I
mm,
decided to drive to Dallas, Texas from Detroit, Michigan. Uh, and my tire blew out and I called asking questions like, should I get a new tire or a used tire? And we began to talk about this idea of foundations, you guys. And it's so important. We're just talking about the importance of having the foundations. Um, um, and so yeah. So what I was saying about the reading piece, right? If you miss it, she said the lesson. If you miss it, I became tired of repeating the lesson.
mhm,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm,
You wind up having to repeat some stuff. And that's the space.
mhm.
And that is the space that we want to talk about. Like, do we really want to spend our time repeating that which we don't have to?
Right.
Because I don't. Like, I don't. And I have always been the type of person who has been in some level of accountability or has some level of mentorship. Because if giving the choice, right? If somebody tells me that it's hot, I generally just believe that the thing is hot. Now
Mm,
that has its downfalls. Let's be clear that will
mm,
have its downfalls can have its downfalls for us not having our own experiences. But also there are some lessons that we don't have to go through
mm, mm.
if we can get the lessons from other people. Go ahead, Dr. James. You look like you had a thought come in right there.
Okay, I did. Hi, Delasper. I want to say good morning to Delasper. Um, but also, you, the grace that's afforded to us as novices is not afforded down the road, and it shouldn't
Right.
be.
The grace that is no, I feel like I need to write it down. Lord, I should have came with a pen. I know better than that. I know better than that. The grace that is afforded to us as a novice, is not afforded to us when?
Down the road, as it
Down
shouldn't
the
be,
road.
right?
Talk more
Because
about that.
yeah, because if you it's just like so we use the math and then we'll apply it to, more practical. But in math, when we're first learning, we've got all this grace, all this time, all this, but you in the 6th grade and can't do math and people looking at you sideways and you don't get
Mm,
grace. Same thing. If there's so I'm thinking about myself as a self-love coach, right? There's some things that I was a novice when I first started coaching, even though I had a license for almost a couple of decades in therapy. There, as a therapist, there is some difference between therapists and coaching. And so I'm sure I blurred those lines a bit when I first started and things like that. But I am a consummate learner. I don't care if I
mhm,
already know the stuff. I'm going to still dig and dig and dig and dig and dig because for my own stuff, I hold my own self accountable. There are just some things that I ought not to find myself, doing or not doing 5 years into coaching, right?
mhm,
3 years into coaching. There's some things that I'm expecting to be fluid because we are to be growing and developing and becoming and maturing, right, in what it is that we're doing. And so if we consistently fail to do our due diligence to shore up the foundation, then at some point that novice reality, when we're in a what would be um the novice reality when we're in a senior standing is going to cost us.
The novice reality when we're in a senior standing will cost us. How many of y'all have been on a job or been in a situation or been wherever, and it's somebody who's working with you that should know what should know whatever the thing is they should know, right? And it could be a dangerous thing.
Mhm,
We were in
mhm.
a remember we went to the shooting range that time, and the
Oh,
person
yeah,
had we were in the
yeah.
so we went to okay, so we go to the gun range and the person brings their firearm and hands the firearm over, and I can't remember the exact details, but whatever it was, there was a bullet in the chamber,
Mhm, mhm,
and it should not have been a bullet in the chamber at that
mhm,
time.
mhm,
And he had handed the weapon over to um the worker, and the worker who was experienced in it
mhm,
immediately takes the weapon, discharges it, and the 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 ammunition falls out of the chamber. And
mhm,
everybody's eyes, you could feel the tension. Everybody's eyes just got big because that situation literally could have been deadly. And the
mhm,
thing about something like that is if you own a firearm, that's something that you should know, right?
mhm,
And so that like you just should know at that point that what did happen should not have happened the way that it happened.
mhm,
And so like that in that space, that's where the grace that is afforded to us as a novice, that's not available down the road.
Yeah.
That's not available down the road. The what
Mhm,
you got when you were a baby Christian,
mhm,
when you just you just became came to the knowledge of the Lord. Like, no, the Lord holds us responsible. He holds us accountable for what we know.
mhm,
He holds us accountable for what we know. And I believe he holds us accountable for what we should know.
mhm,
And what I mean by that is, right, like if we don't know something and we get it or whatever, and we don't get it, I do think that there is a grace for that. But if it's something that a lesson that we should have gotten, that
mhm,
based on, the fact that, I've told you this time and time again, that's what I mean when I say should. Not should as in, you know, somebody just think we should know because osmosis, right? But no,
mhm,
when it's a lesson that is to be learned or whatever the case may be. And so how many of us have been on that side of grace? I know that I have been in a space where I have heard the Lord say end of grace. Has anybody ever heard God say end of grace? Just put in the grace in chat if that's you. If you've heard the Lord say end of grace, put that in the chat. Because I was in a situation where like I kept being in this cycle. I kept being in this cycle. And I remember when I tell you I remember that clear as day when I got to the point where the Lord was like you get no more chances here. You get no more chances here. Have you ever experienced a time where that is? And that is when I say, and I use that phrase, it can be deadly. And I know it feels harsh. I know that feels like a strong phrase, like, oh man, Joy, no, no. If
mhm,
we trying to flow in a grace that we don't have, that there are many times where it could be deadly.
mhm,
Go ahead. I
mhm.
see. I see it. I
No, I was
see it.
just
It's like I can see the thoughts when they come in and they look. You got a the look that happens. Like what you was about to say.
no, so just, that you're on point there. We can't afford to not know what is ours to know.
Dr. James is dropping the sound bites today. We can't afford to not know what is ours to know. And how
Mhm.
do we get that? What are some ways that we can get what is ours to know?
Yeah, so oh, where did I write that at?
I
So,
don't know.
Papa is always shoring up just how I, know myself, and how I show up. Let me see where it is. Okay. And he's always kind of shoring that up and just bringing me more and more and more at home in me and who he has to be me to be in this season of life. And so, I had a wonderful opportunity yesterday, twice in a row, to see kind of fruit of my labor, to see two individuals who I've coached like fully, fully doing the thing that they, um, have been birthed to do. And I can see a direct correlation of the coaching experience we have and now them flowing in their own giftedness, right? Just a manifestation of it. So it was a very life-giving, so satisfying day for me to have those experiences. And so, um, and so what's the statement? The statement that I made. Did you capture the last statement?
Mm-mm, nope.
Oh, you did. Or we can't afford to not know what is ours to know. I
We
think is
can't afford to not know what is ours
what
to
is
know. There
ours
we
to
go.
know. And so, so yesterday, Papa has given me as I was coming home, and he's refining like how I talk about what I do. Because my title, right, self-love coach and soul midwife, sometimes that can be cumbersome. So it was almost like Papa said, let me marry the two because the two are accurately, descriptive of who you are. But most of the time people say she's a self-love coach, which is easy to get off and that kind of thing. So what he gave me yesterday is self-love coaching. Yesterday they kept calling me Kathy J. So self-love coach Kathy J. Help people. So I help people to love themselves sufficiently enough to birth that which only they can.
Mhm.
Right. So that encompasses the soul midwife to birth that which only they can. So I can't afford to not know about love, right? I can't afford to not know how to create safe place so people can incubate and birth and all of those kinds of things. I can't afford to not know the tools that are only mine to know, because those people and I were aligned to journey together for that season. And if I continue to second guess myself, which I did at the beginning, right? Which I wondered, okay, I don't know this. I don't know. If I continue to stay in that space, then
Mhm.
what they, I wouldn't have been positioned to give them my portion that helped them to have the manifestations that they had yesterday. So we can't
Mm.
afford to not know what is ours to know, right? And so it's mine to know how to create an environment where we can come together twice a month on a Saturday, so we could just have a very laid back group coaching conversation, because that's the seeds of it all
Mhm.
for yesterday's fruit. So all
Mhm.
of that. So if you think about all that goes into that, my responsibility for consistency, my responsibility for perseverance, my responsibility to know, what I need to do in order to make sure all of the pieces that go into that, I can't blame somebody else for it not happening. That's
Ooh.
mine, right? That's my responsibility. And so if at any point, right, I what they say, how you say shirk my responsibility? I can't think of the word, but let go, give up, whatever, shirk it off, my
Mhm.
responsibility, then now I don't know, sometimes I waffle on this, go back and forth. Um, I know that there is intention for all of our lives. And I know that if we're determined to have it, Papa's gonna have his way. But I also believe that sometimes who Papa intended to use or would have preferred to use to help us get where we want to go, he can't use them because they didn't do their pre-work.
Ooh. Ooh. Say it again. Who God, who Abba, who Papa has preferred to use to get us to where
Use
we
it.
need to go may not be able to use them because they haven't done their pre-work.
Pre-work. Yep.
Baby,
Haven't
that's a word in and of itself. Listen to me. Listen, there have been times in my life where there have been some spaces where I know that I was in a space and whether he couldn't use them or he couldn't use me, either way, because the work wasn't done. It is important for us to know that we have to be in a
yeah.
certain space for it, for God to use us,
Yeah.
right? And it's our responsibility to be in that space when it's time for God to use us. That's because God
Absolutely.
gives us methods and times and all those kinds of things. And if we're doing what the Lord has told us to do,
Mm-hmm.
right, we can be in position. How many
Mm-hmm.
ever have missed some stuff because we just wasn't in position? We just wasn't in the place we were supposed to be.
Look, so both of us were in the camp together, and it's like, basically, I forget how she used to say it, but she would say, stop leaving money on the table, or stop leaving money on the, you
Yeah,
remember that phrase?
yeah.
Like, you
Don't leave the money on the table. You leaving so
don't
much money on the table.
leave so much. Girl, I don't left so much money on the table.
Oh, oh. And here's the thing.
Ooh.
We and we all have, right? In some ways or other, and not just cash money, right? We let's say currency. I think the
I
better
don't have
statement.
cash.
He said, "Let me be clear. I
Cash.
just left the money on
I
the
can
table."
count the people who was like, I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you. I'm like, I ain't ready. Wait, wait, wait,
I'm
wait.
not.
Wait. You're going too fast. Slow down, slow down. No, but I'm ready. You got what I need. Do I? What? Wait, I gotta go read a book. I need to go develop a plan. I need to get it together. So I'm comfortable. Papa's like, you do have what they need. But when you know you got what they need, then you can pick up the cash.
Ooh, wait,
But look, but wait,
somebody put that in the chat. I need somebody to help me with that. When you got what they need, then you
then
can
you
pick
can
up
pick
the
up the
cash.
cash. But let me
Ooh.
say, don't pick up the cash when you pretending like you got what they need.
Oh, I had to go to sleep on that one. Ooh, that don't you pick up, don't you touch that. Don't you touch
Come back
it.
to bite you.
Don't you touch it if you
Mhm.
don't have it.
If you
Don't you
pretending, you know you don't have it.
if you
know you don't have it. You pretending like you got it. No, just go on and sit on the sideline, do your work. Because the cash is real. Let me tell you, I went this event I went to yesterday. This young man dropped this thing that was so powerful. So he was, if I might get this wrong, but he is an artist. He does murals. And
Mhm.
he was contracted by Gucci, I think, to develop a mural for Gucci or one of them, like one of those,
Mhm. Major
designers
brand.
that's been around forever. Um, a young black man, right? I
Mhm.
think he's in his 30s, unheard of. I'm there for. It was another young man who was there to do a mural for Neiman Marcus, in our mall out here. And um, so I forgot what I was saying. All that. Oh, what because of what he said. He said, like, just go on and do what it is that's yours to do. He said, he was talking about money, and he said something in the sense of we're so worried often about the money of a thing. I'm gonna have to get my thing and read it. But he was talking about we're so worried about the money of a thing. He was like don't even be concerned about the money. That's what I was okay. So that's how I was tying it in. Because sometimes we'll go after the money. Well, you don't have it, so you're gonna pretend like you have it so you can go in and get the money. And he
Yeah.
was like, don't even worry about the money. Like literally, just do what is yours to do, what you know is yours to do at this time because the money really is a non-issue when you do you. It really is a non-issue. So we've got to
Mhm.
be clear that this is my lane. This is my lane. This is what
Mhm.
I am here to do. This is the good. These are the goods that I have. And the scripture tells us our gifts will make room for us and bring us before great men, right? The great, whatever the great is for us, it will bring us before that. And so, but oftentimes our need of I don't want to make light of that their monetary needs, financial needs.
Absolutely.
Sometimes those financial needs will have us in places that we haven't prepared for.
Mm.
And it's not Papa, there's a difference. We can go somewhere we haven't prepared for, and Papa has anointed us for that space.
Talk about it. Talk
Right?
about it.
But sometimes we go somewhere we're not prepared for because we haven't done our due diligence. The anointing, no. Maybe Papa will give you some grace, but sometimes the grace is that you're going to fall flat on your face so you won't find yourself here again.
Oh, let's talk about that. Listen. Don't try to pimp an anointing. Don't try to pimp an anointing. There's only so much grace. There's only so much grace in that. Like God will anoint us in a space where
Yeah.
um we may not have the fortitude or may not have the
Mhm.
foundation in or whatever to do
Mhm.
what it is that he needs to do for that given time. But don't mistake God's anointing for God's appointing. I don't know
Mhm.
where that came from, but I love a good alliteration and I feel like
Mhm.
feel like it fits. Don't mistake God's anointing for what He's appointed you to do. Right? Like, don't. Yes, He may have anointed you for that time and for that space, but is that your appointment? Is
Mhm.
that where you're supposed to be? Is that how you're supposed to be showing up in the
Mhm.
world? Is that what God has for you?
Mhm.
And if the answer to that question is no or you don't know, then it is time for to make sure that you go back to that drawing
Yeah.
board. And then also, if he blesses you or gives you grace in a space, then you still have to prepare. One of
Yeah.
the things that my former pastor that I started preaching under would say to us, the call to preach is a call to prepare. And that was one thing I believe that, right? Like I believe that with everything in me. And it doesn't always mean that you got to go get a doctorate in something and all those kinds of things, but you have to prepare for what God has called you to. Like you don't have the luxury of just saying I can do it because I'm called. No,
Mhm.
you have to prepare for this thing that is ministry. And so this so with the call to preach being a call to prepare, it is important that we make sure that we have what we need. You got to have the word in you. You got to have this and you got to have that in, right? And so one of the things that he would do though, one of the things that he would say though is that you should always have a sermon in your back pocket.
Mhm.
You should always have something ready to preach or whatever the case is, right? And I do believe that. I do believe, be ready so you don't have to get ready, that kind of thing. But I also believe that because there have been times when I have preached a whole entire sermon completely unprepared, complete because that was what was needed in that moment. I was called upon. It was that moment. It was go time, and I went and I did what
Mhm.
God had told me to do. Right.
Mhm.
But I would never just be like, oh, yeah, I got to preach, 6 months from now or a week from now and not look at a piece of
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That is
That's
negligent and it's dangerous
and it's dishonorable.
and it's dishonorable. And it's dishonorable.
Mhm.
And you say here's the thing, say never, right? Because that'd be the position that you want to put in. But but that is not my desire ever.
Yeah.
That is not my desire ever to be in a space where like I can prepare for that I don't do that which I could prepare for. And
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go off of my raw talent because I'm gonna go off my raw talent.
Yeah.
And that is where oftentimes I believe there are leaders who are wondering why there's a gap in either growth or development of those who they lead because
Mhm.
because it's a spot where there's some this is it, where there's a spot where there has been some complacency
Mhm.
in the learning, some complacency
Mhm.
in the preparation. And it's interesting because what just came to mind is the Lord will check you in the moment, right? Let me just tell y'all what the Lord just did to me, what he just said to me. He said to me, he said, you might not have did it in preaching. He said, but you totally did it in therapy. I said, ooh, ooh. And I'm just outing myself right now because that's what the Lord did to me. And let me give y'all some context on that. I've been a therapist for over a decade, and there was a time, not saying recently or now, but there was a time when I floated on a scale because there's a prescription to the way that you do the things. There's a formula to how you do it. So if there's a formula to how you do it, then what winds up happening is it's almost like um you do what you know, and so you can be good at it because you do what you know, right?
Mhm.
And so going into spaces where I would be unprepared because it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I know
Mhm.
this, right?
Mhm.
Instead of making sure that I refresh in some spaces. And so I've had to repent in some spaces where I had to where I did not
Mhm.
honor that, right? So I don't ever want to say it like I have not been in that space, right?
Mhm.
I've not
Mhm.
been in that space. Absolutely, I've been in a space where I didn't where I showed up unprepared. And I'll say this, and I thank God for being who He is. And His grace abounded.
Mhm.
But I am not in a place in my life now. We're talking about first fruits, the 40. We're talking about the gift, the sacrifice, and all that kind of stuff. I am not in a place in my life now where I would intentionally go forth unprepared.
Mhm.
I just don't want to. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. God has given me what the people need. I don't know who the people are, right? Yeah, but you get what I'm saying. And He's giving you what the people need. God is giving you what they need. And in some spaces, there is some times where your foundation is good and God has already said, you got what they need. You got what they need. What are we waiting on? Do what I told you to do. What are
Mhm.
we waiting on? Do what I told you to do. And because here's the thing, you can miss a dispensation of time
Mhm.
by not. You can miss it.
Mhm.
And like Dr. James was just talking about leaving money on the table. You can leave the money on the table. And I was gonna say currency because it's not always
Sure.
cash money, right? It's
Mhm.
sometimes you leave the relationships on the table. Sometimes you leave the outcomes on the table. Sometimes you leave the jobs on the table. Sometimes so currency, the that which is tangible or whatever to spend.
Mhm.
Sometimes you leave those things on the table. But yes, sometimes it does translate to cash. And oftentimes it translates to cash, particularly when you're an entrepreneur and in business, right? It's gonna
Mhm.
translate to cash. When you're not prepared, you leave money on the table.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that was good. Let me,
Mhm.
okay. Let's do these church announcements. Let's do our church announcements. First of all, y'all, we are on day 6. It's day 6. It is day 6 until 10/5, 10/5, which will represent my 40th birthday, which will represent my 40th birthday going into my 41st year of life. And I am super excited about what God will do in that time. Ooh, I get a pom pom. Hey, because I'm about to be 40. Hey. Ah, 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 ah. Okay. Uh, So, uh, it's, so as I walk into that space, I'm so grateful for the things that God is doing, what God is revealing,
Mhm.
and how He is moving in this season. I was telling someone. I'm supposed to be doing the church announcements, but this is how it be happening in church anyway. I was telling someone, I was telling someone that this has been the first time that I have been in a season where I have been consciously aware of the change of the season.
Mhm.
Consciously aware of the change of the season, and maybe not the first time. I don't know, but this is definitely a time. I believe it's the first time. Like, where I was, and when I say consciously aware of the change of season, what I mean by that is there have been many times when I've been in a season and the season changes, and it's just kind of like it just changes naturally or something like that, or you wake up and you're like, oh, that season is over, that doesn't work anymore, whatever the case is. But in the last year, but and truly in the last 6 to 9 months, I've been in
Mhm.
a season where I have consciously watched things change.
Yeah.
I've consciously watched, like, and no, and it's interesting in it, and that has been painful in some ways, like knowing something was getting ready to fall off that you want. Like that's a
Mhm.
painful place to be
Mhm.
in. Knowing that you're getting ready to face something that
Mhm.
is mm, knowing that you're getting ready to face something that is able to be life changing in a season, and it's going to be life changing. And life say and can be life changing in a devastating way, right? Knowing that you're getting ready to face that, watching that, knowing that that's getting ready to happen. um those can be painful places, because when you know it's going to happen, you want to do something to the opposite, but it needs to happen because God is giving you the insight. So this is
Mhm.
the first time that I've been fully aware of the change of the season. And I was saying initially, when I recognized it, I was like, oh man, this has been extremely painful, because some things have happened back to back. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, I feel like at one point it was week after week. Things were just coming, and not little things, y'all. I'm talking about big things, like people dying, financial situations, relational situation. Like, I mean, and these things were coming like on top of each other, building blocks stacking on top of each other, and knowing that there wasn't a whole lot that you can do, but
Mhm.
be right. All you could do, all you could be was be in those spaces.
Mhm.
And so, like, I was initially, like, at one point I was like, man, this is super painful. This does not feel good, and I don't want to be in this space. And when but now I'm in a space where, yes, that moment felt painful. It did. Those moments, there were moments that felt painful. But if I sit back and I look at, and I don't even have to sit back and look at it in reverse, I was able to see and reframe in the moment the peace that God had given me in those spaces.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this
Mhm.
was such a different season to experience pain and peace in the
Mhm.
same proximity.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
oh
Mhm.
my. And so that is or has been the place that God has had me in. And so just as I'm walking into this 40th year and shedding off some things and seeing some things happen, I'm excited about 40 coming. I don't know that I'll feel different on 10-5 when I wake up, because I just feel different now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like it's already here. I feel like it's already in some spaces.
Mhm.
And it was funny because like, as all those things were going through, Kathy is probably as close to me as anybody can be at this point.
Mhm.
So she saw a lot of those things happening, and I remember the day that she just, I don't know, paused for a minute. It was like, hmm, you're taking all of this in well. And I was like, yes, I am. And while I had recognized the change, having someone who is in accountability spaces with you, but also who can see those things happening and know the history, right? Know that any one of those things, let alone 5, 6 of them stacked up, would have took me out the game, y'all. And when I say took me out the game, I mean for a period of time, not not. We ain't talking about just, oh, it was just a day. And here's the thing, and I don't want to help make myself sound less than human. Because yes, there were times that I had to stop, or I had to pause, or I had to intentionally say, not today. No, today is not a good day. I'm going to go lay down. I need to reset, whatever the case is. But it took me out the game where I'm like, oh, under the bed, oh Lord, and what is happening in my life, and and all the things. And that's a very real place as well. But I'm grateful for the growth.
Absolutely.
I'm grateful for the growth place where not only do I see like, oh man, that took me out. That took it out a notch. But somebody else can see it and say, you're handling it well. And that level of acknowledgement um did help to propel some more, like, okay, cool, it's working.
Mhm,
All of
mhm.
the lessons, all of the times, all of the things. You got that look on your face like you want to say something.
Yeah, I love your statement about pain and peace, right?
Mhm.
Because that is, I think that's a significant life goal. Like, it's one
Mm.
of those things that we have to, it's one of the things to master in life is pain and peace simultaneously. Because pain in life is inevitable, but peace is always available,
Pain
right?
in life is inevitable. Peace in life is
It's
always
available.
available.
It's always,
Available. Oh, I need some help with that in the chat. Somebody write that down. Pain in life is inevitable, but peace
peace
in
is
life,
always
peace
available.
is always
Always
available.
available. It's not always easy to
Ooh.
get, but it's always available and it's necessary, right? And it's necessary. And that's what I love about um just that day, recognizing that in you, right? Just as you said, knowing that any one of those things could have took you out, like just one isolated by themselves with another one not coming for another 3 or 4 months or whatever. But
Right.
back to back to back to back to back, and you stop for a moment and take the blow and kind of take a breath and have a conversation here or there and keep moving. I'm like, okay.
That's what I said too. Like,
I'm like, hmm, another one. Ooh, hmm, okay. Another. Oh Lord. Hmm. I'm like, well, okay, then you doing something. So yeah, it was. What would um, the word is rewarding, but I don't know if that's the word. Heartfelt, satisfying, good. I don't know what the word is, but to see the difference,
hmm
to be able to have a front row seat. The front row seat is not the thing, but it is the seat that I had, right? Be
hmm
able to have that seat and really see the significant transformation, basically, is what it
Oh,
was.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and one of the things that God has shown me in this season is like, hey, yo, I'm always here. Like, and here's the thing, and I don't say that lightly, right? Like, y'all know I love the Lord, and I know that I've always known that He's always here, right? Um, but really being able to anchor back into that which is source for me, right? And God is my source. Abba, who is my father, Abba, who is Jesus's daddy, that's the one. you know, and being able to like be in that space and that be God, I really just need you to handle this because I can't. And I remember having conversations just like that with God and then going on about my business because I fully expected him to handle it.
Mhm.
And when you live in a space where you expect your parent to handle a thing, like
Mhm.
you really go about your business like life don't like things don't exist. And here's the thing about that. Now, that's when you have a good parent, right? Or and so that's the thing about having a good father built in is that when the what say the waters rise and something the creek, I don't know, I'm gonna get that all mixed up, but winds may blow. The storms may come, whatever the case may be. But knowing that God will make everything okay,
Mhm.
it really frees you up to be okay.
Mhm. 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 The thing is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. No, go. The thing is,
In God's economy, it already was okay.
it already was okay.
It was okay.
Absolutely.
It's up to us to position ourselves sufficiently enough to receive that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like God has me in a place. I'm on this 40-day Bible read. I'm behind a couple days. I have a couple days to finish the Bible by my birthday. But um and to do it within the 40 days. And so, but God has me on this Bible read. And one of the things that I know that is in the Bible is that God is able, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And if you know that God is able,
Mhm.
take it back. If you believe that God is able, because here's the thing, we can know some stuff and we can have a cognitive knowledge that this is a thing. If we believe that God is able,
Mhm.
peace is available.
Mhm.
Well, peace is, and here's the thing, and even if we don't believe, peace is
Mhm.
still available. So that's when I would find myself in spaces and I would literally be in my help my unbelief space. Lord,
Mhm.
whatever the space is of unbelief, whatever the root is in that space, Lord, I'm just going to ask you right now to help that unbelief space.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And so, and he has, and he absolutely has. And so, as I was talking about this season going into my 40th birthday, y'all, let me just tell y'all, I'm so locked into Jesus right now. I'm so locked into God and what He has for me and how He has me to move. When I tell you that shield of protection, that shield of movement, that shield of being able to listen and hear, and like I said, hear God in real time and respond to even when He checks and convicts, just like I did earlier, like it happens and it drops in my spirit. And so I am very happy to be on a journey to be sharing that with folks. Um, Oh, I just said that out of my mouth. I don't know that I wasn't very happy, but I'm very happy to be on a journey where where I am able to share that with folks. And so God's faithfulness abounds. God's
Mhm.
faithfulness abounds. And when I think about God's faithfulness, it really does help. It really puts me in a place where I almost come to a loss for words. I almost come to a loss for words. And
Mhm.
so, I'm in this hotel, and this random alarm clock is on this hotel, on this this thing. Um, anyways, so the point, I was gonna try to ignore it, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to. You have to tell the people about how God's faithfulness about for me, so I can grab this alarm clock. Oops, wrong person. Not what I meant to do.
Absolutely. And so when we think about the faithfulness of God, you are here. God's faithfulness, like there's no more need for evidence or support in his faithfulness in that you are. We are because he is, right? We are because he is. And so his expectation then, in honor of his faithfulness to us, that we would be faithful to him, meaning that we would be just what he's put in us. Like we don't have to pretend, we don't have to walk anybody else's walk, we don't have to, mimic, we don't have to leverage anybody else's gift, none of that. What we Papa has been faithful to give each and every one of us what we need in plenty, in abundance. There's no shortage. And so I think it just really, we really honor him by learning what that is for us individually. What is it? What is your unique contribution to Papa's universe? Like, get comfortable in that. Get at home in that. Be so familiar and so I don't know what's the word, just aligned with that. And then we can move through life just like breathing. His faithfulness is in his intention. Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you, I knew you and called you and appointed you. Just like he did for Jeremiah, he did the same thing for us. Our responsibility, and I think I said this before, is to get to know ourselves as Papa knew us, his intention when he formed us. That's faithfulness. His intention for us is his faithfulness. You on mute.
God's faithfulness is in his intention. Oh my gosh. And here's the thing. And so here's the thing we that will help us in our tough spots is when we know what his intention was.
Mm-hmm.
Hear me when I say, and that is why it's so important for us to know what God has for us, to know his word, to know who he is, to be in relationship with him, because then we can know his intention.
Mm-hmm.
When you know the intention of the artist, you can see the picture from their eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you know the
Mm-hmm.
intention of the artist, you can see the piece from their eyes. And here's the thing. So when pain happens, we back to this: pain in life is inevitable, but peace is always available. When pain in life happens, if I know what God's intention is, I
Mm-hmm.
can handle the pain a
Yeah.
little bit better.
Yeah.
Let me make
Yeah.
let me make that plain for you. How
Mm-hmm.
many of you can handle the pain that you know is happening? I see my friend Dawn Hinton is in here watching. Hey, good
Mm-hmm.
morning, Dawn. Good morning. Good morning. When we see the pain happen, when we how many of you been in a space where I use this? If you've ever been punched, if you ever been in a fight, right? If you know that the punch is happening, if you know the shove is happening, you get to posture yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it does not mean that the pain won't happen. It
Right.
does not mean good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It does not mean that it won't hurt. It does
Mm-hmm.
not mean that that punch is not going to land. That's
Mm-hmm.
not what that means. What that means is it means that your posture will allow it to not hurt you the way that it would have hurt you had you
Mm-hmm.
not had the stance, had you not had the firm foundation. So pain is inevitable, but you have that peace that would allow you to keep going. When
Mm-hmm.
you and when she said his you when you understand his intention, so when you know the intention of the master, when you know the intention of the father, when a painful thing happens,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to pursue. It's easier to just to continue to pursue purpose through pain. It's
Mm-hmm.
easier to continue to press
Mm-hmm.
because I understand that this wasn't meant to kill me. Because if God wanted to take me out, he could have.
Mm-hmm.
If God wanted to put me in different, he could have. So I can have peace in knowing that whatever God is doing, it is meant to work for my good. This is why it's good to know the word, because that's what they say. All things work together for the good,
Mhm,
right? So
mhm,
pain can be a part of the all. It is a part of the all things.
mhm,
But I
mhm,
know that it's working for my good. And it
mhm,
gave me a dish. And I will say in this season, it has given me a different posture.
mhm, mhm. I would use just a little bit of a different wording there. I agree
Let's talk
with your
about
wording. I agree with your wording in that it's easier. So from technically, I agree with that. I just think about from a mental people when they're in emotional and mental spaces, they
it.
hear that word easier, they stop at easy.
Mm,
So
mm,
So what I would they may stop it easy. Let me say it like that. So what I would offer there is that when we know it, when we're in their spaces, we have a greater capacity to
mm.
navigate, right, and continue to go.
Greater
Now
capacity to
there is
navigate.
right that greater capacity does bring a different level of ease, but just understanding where some people are at some point, right, when they're
Mhm.
suffering and they hear the word easy, ain't nothing easy about this.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I don't wanna minimize what anybody's going through, right? I'm not trying to minimize anybody's going through,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
don't mean easy as in
Right, right.
easier as in easy at all. I mean as in with a different level of
Mm,
ease.
mhm.
Yeah, so
Mhm,
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. So
mhm,
y'all, we never got to the church announcements. This was I was supposed to be in my church announcements. Let me give y'all these church announcements real quick. 10:3 to 10:7, we got the Aruba retreat that is happening. I'm super excited for the time on the water, y'all. Listen, we're going to be here. I got one spot left, just one spot, 4 nights in Aruba, for 4 nights in Aruba. If you are interested, if that's something that you feel like you need to be doing, and if you thought, and if you hear this announcement and you like, man, let me see if that's something I can do. Listen, you need to have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. That one spot, Might be your spot. Um, and let's see what can happen. Let's see what can happen. Don't talk yourself out of what is available. That's all I got. Don't talk yourself out of what's available. If it hits you and you like, man, that's something I might be interested in. Just have a conversation and see if it's available to you. I'm certain that it is, or can if not. I'm certain, but I'm sure that there could be a possibility there for you. Anyways, if you're interested in knowing more about it, you can go to arubajoy.com just to get more information. What else is coming up? We dropped the merch line yesterday. The Lord told me to drop the merch line yesterday, so we dropped the Leveraging Hope merch line. We dropped Defining Hope. We dropped the Defining Hope piece, and it is the definition merch. So it's t-shirts and things like that with the hope definition on it. Excuse me. So go to leveraginghope.com to grab that merch. Go to leveraginghope.com. I'm excited about the merch line. I was planning on dropping it on my birthday with everything else, but we're starting some things up there. We got a new design coming soon. Oh gosh, I can't remember the wording of it right now. We got a new design that's coming out. Um, oh, I am the sacrifice and there's hope. And that's coming from that Isaac story about
Mm,
being the sacrifice. Like
mm,
from Isaac's standpoint, I'm the sacrifice, but there's
mm,
hope, right? I'm the one that God is taking up the mountain to potentially be slayed, right? For somebody else. I got the hope that somebody else hears from God on my behalf. But there is hope, right? There's a word there for somebody. So I am the sacrifice, but there is hope. So we got those two pieces at leveraginghope.com. If you have any questions or anything about that, you can DM me and make sure you get what you need there, or you can just go to leveraginghope.com and pick up those pieces, because we got get ready to make God famous, whether it's what we wear, what we do, or what we say. That's what's happening right now in my world. The other thing that is coming up this week, we've already given away the book. Oh, y'all, I wrote a book. I, I I've never ever wanted to write a book, and you can ask Dr. Catherine E. James. I have never wanted. That has not been ever been a thing where I've been like, "Hey, Kathy, I want to write a book." No, that has never been a desire of mine. I was like, everybody writing a book, and I don't got nothing to say. I don't want to write no book. Um, but the Lord in this season, Jesus in this season, has released. I've co-partnered with God in creating this book called Leveraging Hope. Your path to purpose begins with honest observation and practical execution. And I finally got excited about it. I'm not sure what shifted, because I even up until this point, like up until like probably this past week, I was like, just like it was the thing, like it's the thing that I needed to do. I knew God and I worked through the pieces in it. Uh, but I'm excited about what this work is getting ready to do, and how it's going to help some people to see God differently and have some practical ways in which you can move forward. One thing that I do not love is getting a whole lot of word, a whole lot of this is what you should do, this is what you could do, this is what you got to do, without telling me how to do it, right?
mm,
And I try to break some things down into a way that makes it at least beginning it easy, right? Because I believe in momentum, right? So sometimes it's just a good start that can get us to movement. Because I've spent a lot of time talking about movement because I believe movement is a thing. But then what I realized is sometimes people don't know how to move, right?
mm,
And so like I said, I co-partnered with God in this and wrote what he gave me to write. Um
mm,
to a fault, to a fault. I've got far too much information about myself in a written work that anybody could buy. But at the end of the day is what I believe God has told me to put on paper. So that's coming out, and we are pre-selling it on my birthday, 10/5. I want y'all to get ready for all of the options that are coming with that. You'll have options to purchase your signed copy. You'll have options to purchase multiple copies and be an activator, and you'll have options to become I got some real cute things. Become a hope activator, a hope dealer, and a hope cultivator, right? So you have options to buy multiple book levels so that you can either help other people or do your own study and all those kinds of things. And there'll be options for me to come into those spaces with you, and partner with you in those teaching spaces if you're interested. And then the final thing that is coming up is a set of workshop based on the chapters in the book. Each chapter in this book is independent of each other, right? This ain't a book you got to sit down and read straight through. You can
Mhm.
grab the chapter. You can be like, man, my relationships is crazy right now. You can grab that chapter on relationships and eat on it for however long you need to eat on it and
Mhm.
do what you need to do. Or I'm grieving right now and it's a hard space for me. You can grab that chapter on grief and let God help walk you through those spaces. Or chapters on oh my gosh, there's 10 of them. So there are 10 different things that encompass how to, living life well and taking the upgrade, those spaces where it is important. We talked about that this morning, interestingly enough. Do you want to buy the tire or do you want the old tire, the used tire, or buy a brand new one, right? Sometimes it's, just taking the upgrade is the case, right? So that's coming. That's coming out on my birthday. So I finally have reached that space of, man, God, a thing that if we did a thing. So uh, I'm excited about that. Whoo. So there's that. Those are y'all church announcements, y'all. Govern yourselves accordingly. If you're interested in packages and things of that nature and you want to pre-purchase that kind of stuff, you can do it before the 5th. Before the 5th, I can get with you, but I'm not dropping that website until the 5th. All right. Um, govern yourselves accordingly. Oh, what you got coming up, Kath? You got anything coming up? I know you got LTE, your
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
situation. Go ahead.
Yep. So individuals can join us at Life Transforming Experience every Saturday. I mean, every first and third Saturday, I have a live group coaching call. It's $47 a month. Um, there will be a course starting the 8th. Starting on the 8th, we will have a course, and it's every Tuesday from 7 to 8:30, which is on happiness, right? The
Ooh,
course on happiness. It's my last course of the year, so I'm going to fold in two concepts. I was going to do two more, but I'm going to fold in two concepts. I'm using an acronym that I've recently learned to kind of walk through happiness, and one
mhm.
of them includes spirituality. And so there's a this thing we've done in the body in church that has really been a hindrance for us just as believers. And I was going to teach an entire course on that. I'm just going to fold that into the spirituality. So it's going to be an amazing time on just talking about happiness, what it is not, and what that looks like to truly live a life that is filled with happiness.
Absolutely.
So registration will be available for that and people can just follow me online or DM me online and you can get the registration link for that. That'll be available Monday at the end of the day today, really, but Monday folk will be able to get it.
Wonderful. So she has a course coming up. She has group coaching if you're interested in being in a community of people every first and third Saturday, she said, which is called Life Transforming Experiences. It's an amazing group. I love it. I love it. I love it. Good
Mhm.
morning, Ishameen. I see you. I see you. I see you. And so all things for that is drkatherineejames.com. Dr. Catherine
Mhm.
E. Don't forget the second E, James.com. Go pick up whatever you need to pick up. Listen, y'all, we have had an amazing morning. We have had an amazing morning. We have totally gone over lots of the time. um, but we have had conversation about foundation and we've had conversation about um, we have had conversation about movement and growth. We've had conversation about what God has for us and how we can experience His faithfulness and His intention. Right, and I think I want to go in that space. So as Dr. James comes up with her final word for the people today on hope. Because listen, y'all know one thing I'm gonna say on here is there is hope, whether we are at our highest high or our lowest low. There is always hope. So I want you to remember that. I want you to take hold to that. I want you to grab that, and as you are grabbing that, I want you to be able to know that that God loves you so much that He gave you hope, hope, this glimmer, this gift, and then He loves you so much that He gave you me to teach you how to leverage it. But no, for real. Hope stands for honest observation and practical execution. All right. So taking honest observation and practical execution. So where are we? What is an honest observation, Kathy, and a practical execution that we can
Yeah,
take?
honest, it really is. It's again really telling yourself the whole truth, right? Just I don't want to say like it doesn't have to be a big deal. Just speak
Ooh.
the truth to yourself. Um, but because we speak, because we judge ourselves, like we haven't learned how to not judge ourselves, we're afraid to speak the truth to ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when we relinquish the judgment, the self judgment, then we're free to speak the truth, and then we can live that truth out.
Mm-hmm.
Live that truth out. And so that's what I would say is tell yourself the whole truth, right? Make a commitment to not be in judgment, and then the execution is automatic, like because we know in our soul what is true for us, then we can just live that out, like lean into that, um whatever that is for you, right?
Whatever that is for you. And so, one way to practically be able to tell yourself the truth is write it down. Get you a
Mm-hmm.
piece of paper. Get you a piece of paper. You can write down what you thought was true or what may or may not do, but get you a piece of paper and write it down and say, "This is what I want. This is what and be able to tell yourself the truth on paper." And that's E says this is what Scream on Paper is all about. E has a brand about a journaling brand, right? And so, yeah, that's absolutely it. So get a piece of paper, your practical execution right now about telling yourself the truth. I want you to get a piece of paper this week and just begin to tell yourself the truth. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to write down the false beliefs or anything like that. I just want you to tell yourself the truth. And if you don't have any truths to tell yourself, grab your Bible app, and say, put in the theory, what does God say about me? What does
Mm-hmm.
God say about us? And when you realize what God says about you, when you begin to know that you are the beloved of God, when you begin to write down that God loves you so much that He gave His only begotten Son, when you write down that that God wants to be in relationship with you, when you write down that you're the apple of His eye, when you write down that you have His heart, when you write down, and those are things that you can find inside your Bible. When you write those things down, when you know the truth of what God has said about you, it makes it that much easier to experience life from a place nestled in His love, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that, my friends, is hope. So remember, whether you're at your highest high or you're at your lowest low, there is always hope. Y'all have a blessed and amazing day. Diash, I see you this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Before we exit out of here, if y'all catching this on the replay, make sure you put hashtag replay, and we will see you next time.